Gospel of February 19th, 2014. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. When Jesus and his disciples arrived at Bethsaida, people brought him a blind man and begged him to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. Putting spittle in his eyes, he laid his hands on him and asked, "Do you see anything?" Looking up, he replied, "I see people looking like trees and walking." Then he laid hands on his eyes a second time, and he saw clearly. His sight was restored, and he could see everything distinctly. Then he sent him home and said, "Do not even go into the village." Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Today I just would like to circumscribe myself to the existential point of view of the blind. This blind man is put before us to contemplate him. What is his existence? How does he live? A blind man is handicapped. He is not able to perform everything that we that have sight can do. He needs the help of many for going to places, for dressing himself, and many other things. It is very unlikely that he would be able to prepare his food by himself. And even when he is before the person that he loves, he cannot see her or him. He has to rely on his touch, the touch of his hands. So the blind man is in a difficult situation. He is dependent. How does that relate to us, to you and me? It is interesting to see how this blind man is brought to the Lord by his friends. And the Lord immediately receives him. He takes him by the hand and then cures him. But the cure, amazingly, is not done immediately. It is a process. Now, it is very possible that we could be following Christ, that we could be baptized, and yet could not see the path of God. It's very common. Very, very common that we do not see the path of God. And even when we sort of look at it, still we have to walk in the cloud. We have to walk in faith, trusting the Lord. It is very interesting how this blind man takes the step of confidence, of faith, because a stranger, that is the Lord, takes him by the hand and takes him away from his friends. And that is an act of faith, an act of confidence, the openness of his conscience, his mind to the Lord. He will be taking wherever the Lord wants to take him. He takes him out of the village. I would like to think like he takes us out of this world, out of the worries of this world, and starts teaching us about the kingdom. Now, we see the Lord putting spittle on the eyes of the blind man and laying his hands on him, and then asks, "Do you see anything?" And the blind man, which is blind no more, says, "I am looking at people like trees that walk." So he is not totally cured. The Lord again lays his hands on his eyes, and this time the one that used to be blind, looks clearly, perfectly well. We see how that process has been performed, and it is very much the same for you and me. We could be following Christ without knowing exactly where he wants to lead us, and that is good. But we might be missing the mark going where we want to go rather than asking Him. How does Jesus this day can put His hands on us? We cannot enjoy the same privileges as this blind man had when the Lord roamed humanly the world. Jesus Christ is eminently in the Eucharist, in the Holy Communion, in the Holy Bread. His presence is real. His human body is sitting at the right hand of God the Father. Jesus is also present in the Gospel. So the way that we're going to meet with Him and the way that He is going to cure us is whenever we hear the Word, whenever we receive the sacraments, all the sacraments that are allowed to us. Once we have received baptism, confirmation, then the other two that are very important is reconciliation and communion. Those two have to be frequent. But all of that has to be started with prayer. We have to pray every day, in the morning and in the evening, every day, so that we can be open to God, that He might transform our sight, that He might make us see the way He wants us to walk. Now, you have to be accompanied by a good spiritual director, because in our conscience, not only God speaks, but also the bad spirit can speak there, and our interests. So, whenever in prayer, in grace, we believe that God is pointing the way to, we have to conform that, we have to confront that with a good spiritual director, or at least with a good confessor, so that he might help us go the path of God. May these coming months, dear brothers, bring light and clearness to all of us, and that we might find the way to the kingdom and also help many others find it too. God bless you all.